What is up? You were watching the LaxFactor Lacrosse Show. This is our Thursday recap and weekend preview special. I wanted to talk about Utah playing at Duke as the very first game we're going to do, but as always, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell down below if you'd like to be notified when we put out new videos, and let's get to it. Utah at Duke. It actually was a very interesting game. It ended up being close. Duke jumped out to an early 6-2 lead prior to Utah getting back to within a goal, then tying it up, then taking a 1-goal lead, which they held for a while. So it was interesting, at least through the first half, and then through the second half, not so much. So how it played out, Duke, as I said, goes up 6-2. Utah goes on a 5-goal streak, finished off by Jimmy Perkins, which gave them a 7-6 lead over Duke. Duke then scored a fluke goal by Joe Robertson just before the half. I think it was off a feed by Brad Smith. Somebody fed, or maybe Robertson was trying to feed Smith, and it just kind of went in. Goalie didn't notice it from Utah. He didn't save very much, including that weird pass. So that tied it up at the half with like 7 seconds left. Duke then goes on to score the game's next 8 goals. I think they outscored him in the third quarter by a score of 6-0 over the course of the third. Oddly enough, Brian Smith and Jordan Ginder for Duke at the faceoff X, they go 28 of 31 at the faceoff X on the day, so that was ridiculous. So you win 28 of 31 faceoffs, you're going to win the game. So valiant effort from Utah. I was actually most surprised by their defense hanging in there. Because, defensively, they just don't match up the same. So in the first half, for them to hold Duke back and then at one point have a lead in that game at all, I thought was surprising. So hats off to Coach Holman and in preparing the team the way he did, and for them executing that defensive game plan, at least over the course of the first half. Hats off to Coach Danowski, staff and players, for regrouping at the half and then rattling off 8 goals in a row to, take the 17-11 win, which they needed badly. Robertson, 3 goals, 2 assists. Brad Smith, 2 goals, 3 assists. Jimmy Perkins had one of his best games, 5 goals and a helper for Utah. I was under the impression Perkins was going to be their best player coming into the year, so to see him have kind of a coming out like that, that's awesome. James Sexton went for, I thought it was 2 goals and an assist, but I'm showing 3 goals and an assist here in my notes. And John Stout, the club All-American that's still surprising me, I believe he's 5th in the country in goals. He has 2 goals on the day. So hell of a game by Utah. Good job by Duke to really just put this away and handle their business. They're going to be able to retain their ranking, and everyone's happy. So the next game I wanted to do here was Hopkins hosted Mount St. Mary's, a.k.a. the Mount, at Homewood Field. Fairly uneventful. Mount St. Mary jumped out to a quick two-goal lead. They actually enjoyed that 2-goal lead for about 7 minutes and 30 seconds exactly, prior to Joey Epstein scoring, I believe, Hopkins' first goal. And then Hopkins ends up there. They go on a 6-goal run to take a 7-3 lead into halftime. They gave a goal up with a second left to Mount St. Mary's to let them get within 7-3 at the half. And then Hopkins scored 4 unanswered over the course of the third quarter. They traded goals in the fourth. 11-4 win for Hopkins. I only want to cover this game simply because Hopkins was sitting at 2-3 after that loss to Syracuse. They needed this one bad at home, so it's kind of a good statement win. They win 11-4. They handle their business. They improve to 3-3. The Mount drops to 3-5. Good stat here, Kyle Prouty for Hopkins. He goes 11-12 from the faceoff X. Joey Epstein goes for 3 goals and a helper. Alex Concannon and Brett Baskin each goes for 2 goals, and Ryan Darby looks strong in cage for Hopkins. He has puts up 12 saves on the day. The only real stat of note for Mount St. Mary's, Dylan Fernback put up 14 saves to Hopkins' 11 goals, so he looked solid in goal, and that was good. And then we're going to go to our next game, North Carolina hosting Bucknell at the new facility. Second game. I believe it's their second game at the new facility. I could be wrong. Bucknell was just unable to hang around for the whole game. They end up playing a solid 45 minutes of lacrosse, but Hopkins rode William Perry for 2 goals and an assist in the fourth quarter, which created the separation. They outscored Bucknell 3-1 over that fourth quarter period en route to a 12-7 victory at the new complex, the newly minted complex. Apparently it is really nice, not quite fully finished and landscaped yet, but that's to be expected. North Carolina winner. UNC, they jump out to a 2-0 lead, and then Bucknell ties it up 2-2. UNC jumps out to a 3-2 lead. Bucknell answers, ties it up 3-3. Then UNC jumps out to a 6-3 lead, but Bucknell gets back to within 6-5. So every time UNC would jump out to a lead, Bucknell would have some sort of answer. But from there, it goes off the rails a little bit. UNC goes up 8-5. Bucknell can never get back within 2 goals the rest of the game, and then UNC, just chips away until we get the final outcome of 12-7. UNC improves to 5-2 on the season. I'm surprised they're ranked so low still, considering, now they were sitting at 4-2 when they did the rankings. Now they're sitting at 5-2. Bucknell drops to 2-5, so they're going to have a rough one here. Will Perry and Andy Matthews each put up hat tricks and a helper for UNC. Alex Basile, 9 saves for North Carolina. For Bucknell, Alston Terry, 3 goals, and Christian Klipstein, he had 14 saves, so he played solid in goal for Bucknell. In the end, UNC, once again, they need to keep winning these non-league, non-conference wins before they get into ACC play. That's going to prove very important for them, and they get the road win. The other game I wanted to talk about, and this is the last one that we're going to have highlights for before we get into the rambling, the quick rambling section this time. Lehigh at Rutgers. Lehigh, it was a very good game. They battled back and forth. At one point, each team held a 3-point lead. I want to say Rutgers may have had a 3-point lead twice in the game, but Lehigh had the only 3-point lead that matters in the end. They have the 3-point lead at the end of the game, giving them a 13-10 decision over Rutgers. The game overall, it featured 7 lead changes, which was pretty incredible, so it went back and forth all day. Lucas Spence for Lehigh, he put up 2 goals and an assist over the final 15 minutes and 5 seconds of play over the span where Lehigh tied it up 10-10 and then took the lead 11-10, 12-10, and then 13-10. Tom Schelling, he put up a goal and an assist over the final 2 minutes and 19 seconds of the game for Lehigh. He scored the go-ahead goal with 2:19 left, and he scored, assisted on the dagger with 30 seconds remaining in the game. So Alex Tuminello, 4 goals for Lehigh. He scored one of those goals late. I think he scored the 12th goal late to kind of put them away. And then Lucas Spence, 2 goals, 2 assists on the day. But Tuminello, 4 goals. So hell of a game for him. Ryan Gallagher, 4 goals and a dish for Rutgers. And Kieran Mullins, 2 goals and 3 helpers for Rutgers in the loss. Excellent game overall, though. Went back and forth. I would have liked to have seen Rutgers, maybe score another one late, get back in there and give themselves a chance. But there was actually a pretty big save late by Lehigh, I believe, when the score was tied, and then Lehigh went down the other end and scored within the first 5 seconds of that next possession. So that ended up being the difference maker. Lehigh beats Rutgers. So we have some other scores, and I'll just kind of rip through what happened with them. Bryant and Fairfield. Fairfield beats Bryant in overtime 12-11. Marquette gets the win over lowly Robert Morris 17-5. Siena, I believe Siena now improves to 3-1 on the season. They beat St. Bonaventure 17-10, put the hurt on St. Bonaventure. UMass is still playing solid. They beat a decent UMass Lowell team. I think UMass Lowell's 500 now. UMass is not 500. I think they have their 5th win of the season now. They beat UMass Lowell 14-4. Binghamton gets beat down by Army at Binghamton. It was actually right down the road for me, and I was stuck working and couldn't even go watch that one. But Army gets the 15-6 decision over Binghamton. Cleveland State gets another win, 10-9 over Lafayette. And Hofstra and St. John's faced off. Hofstra actually pulls out the big win over the Johnnies. Hofstra wins 9-7. This weekend, we've got a boatload, and I mean a boatload of games. No other games. There's no games tonight. You're watching this. It's Thursday. Most likely if you're watching this. So no games Thursday night. Friday, we have VMI hosting High Point. So that's going to be a big one for High Point and probably should end up being a big victory for High Point. And then we also have Utah at Fairfield. So Utah keeping busy, and they're on the road at Fairfield. Both of those games are at 7 o'clock. And they are both streaming. You can stream the High Point game, it looks like, from their website, but it looks like that'll end up being on ESPN. And then the Lax Sports Network has the Utah at Fairfield game. So both games, 7 o'clock Friday night. If you go to Inside Lacrosse and then look at their D1 calendar, it'll have all of the links to the web streams. They do a great job on that calendar. That's what I'm looking at right now, actually. What do we got for Saturday matchups? Drexel at Georgetown. So that's a big game for Georgetown for both teams, really. Jacksonville at Bellarmine. So that'll be a nice game here. Army at Holy Cross. So that's pretty huge. We got Vermont at UMBC. Some of the bigger name teams that are going to be playing. Delaware's hosting, Hopkins is hosting Delaware. So that should be, Hopkins at home should be able to handle that business and get themselves back up above 500. They'd be sitting at 4-3 if they could drop Delaware at home. We have Towson at Duke. So that is a huge game. Towson needs a win badly to get back into the conversation for one of the top teams in the country. And Duke, with a win over Towson, they solidify their shot at continuing to stay at number 2 or at number 1 and possibly continue to hold on to that spot. But Duke needs to win that game against Towson. The biggest game of the weekend, at least in terms of what I'm excited to see, Cornell at Yale. So the Ivy League play gets rolling, and Cornell is going to have to face Yale at Yale. So that's going to be a huge one. I predict Jeff Teat is going to have a very big game, but that kind of Chris Fake, Jeff Teat battle between those two, that's something to look forward to for the next 2 years. Well, this year and then next year, at least, as Teat will be a senior, I believe, next year. Yes. I pulled that from the data banks, you could tell. So that's actually a huge one. Michigan at Marquette, that's pretty big. Navy at Loyola. That is another big one between two solid teams. Navy's played pretty solid. Rutgers travels up to the Dome to take on Syracuse. Denver will travel to Ohio State. That's going to be a big one. Another huge ACC game going on this weekend is Notre Dame at Virginia. So that'll actually be a big game for both of those teams. Villanova at Maryland. We are just loaded. Princeton at Penn. Another big Ivy League game. So all these games between noon and 3. Again, if you go to the Inside Lacrosse website, then you can go to their Division I calendar and figure out what time all these games are, where they're streaming. You can read previews. They do a great job. And Albany, trying to get back to their winning ways. They finished Saturday off against UMass Lowell. That'll actually be a tough one for Albany because UMass Lowell is legit. So Albany hosts them. Harvard at Brown. The list just goes on. And then Sunday, nothing huge Sunday. Cleveland State at North Carolina, Utah at UMass, and Lafayette at Lehigh. So we have a bunch of teams getting into their conference play moving forward here. We have a bunch of teams just playing some really tough non-conference foes. The one I'm really excited about, Rutgers at Syracuse. That's going to be a huge one. Cornell at Yale. That's going to be a huge one. And Navy at Loyola. I'm excited about that one too. That's always a good battle. So that is it. That's Thursday's show. As always, we will put a show out Sunday before noon, recapping all of Saturday's games with highlights, with scores, and we'll ramble on about lacrosse. And as always, also be sure to go to our website, LaxFactor.com. Because we have all these videos and blog posts are put up there. We have t-shirts that you could purchase and various cool crap. So anytime you're bored, instead of looking us up on YouTube, feel free to always go to our website, LaxFactor.com, and you can get all of the same videos and a little bit more from there. So as always, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I am out of here.